I would like to invite Alexei Zamyatin, Bob co-founder, to the stage.
All right, hey everyone, I'm Alexei. I'm one of the co-founders of Bob, and today I'm going to talk about hybrid L2s and why we think this is the best way to scale and bring back innovation to Bitcoin. For some background, I've been working on Bitcoin research for almost 10 years now, so I look young, but I actually pulling a lot of gray hair for fighting with maxis. And we spent a lot of time thinking about, well, how do we actually build a secure and scalable layer 2 inside China and Bitcoin? There is a lot of things we need to figure out, but also how do we successfully build an ecosystem and get builders on board? And that's where the hybrid L2 comes in. So, doesn't seem so. You maybe can click the next slide. There we go. All right, so, okay, why Bitcoin? I mean, we're all here for the same reason. I don't think I have to pitch anyone here on why Bitcoin is great, but it is the biggest, right? That's the numbers. And, all right, but it has the least amount of DeFi, right? If you look at Ethereum, its market cap to TVL ratio is at 30%. Whereas on Bitcoin, we're at 0.1%, which puts us at a 300x growth opportunity if we are just to meet the levels of Ethereum. And that is, in our opinion, one of the biggest opportunities in the last decade in crypto. And that's why we're all here, right? We're all here to talk about how to make this happen. And of course, staking plays a big, big role. And I'll talk about this in a second. Now, oh, I think I figured it out. It works. Sorry, but so far we've had this massive chasm between adoption and innovation. People would adopt Bitcoin, and Bitcoin users and people who are in the Bitcoin community would focus on getting Bitcoin into the hands of as many people as possible. But the result was that there's this chasm between Bitcoin's global adoption and the innovation that happens on Ethereum. And so what was happening is that people would just pass through. They would get into Bitcoin, and then they go to Ethereum and all these other networks to use these more advanced technologies. And what it means is that there's fewer users, there's less capital, less talent on Bitcoin, and that the fees are all accruing to other networks. And the reason why we have still not seen Bitcoin layer 2s is that it's actually quite hard to do. I mean, there's a reason why there's 80 new Bitcoin L2s. The problem has been unsolved for a long, long time, right? Stacks, Rootstock, Liquid have been around for quite a while, but have not managed to really capture that narrative, capture the attention of users for them to switch over. And there is three things that you actually need to solve when you're building a Bitcoin layer 2. The first one being a secure Bitcoin bridge and Bitcoin security. And this is a big, big game changer right now because we finally, for the first time, have a way to get to this. With BitVM, we have a way to build a trust minimized bridge. And with things like staking, we also have a way to get Bitcoin security without over-engineering, and actually we'll be able to go to market with this very, very soon. But then you also need to build an ecosystem and ensure liquidity, not just in Bitcoin, but also in other assets. And if you launch a Bitcoin bridge, right? Let's say you take the EVM, you plug it on Bitcoin. You build a bridge. People are happy with it, they bridge over Bitcoin. But then what? If you don't have an ecosystem, and people don't have the infrastructure and the tooling and the network effect to grow, and they don't have liquidity in stables and other assets, nobody will use your chain. And this is why suddenly, after so many years of sidechains, we suddenly have another boom because this problem is still unsolved. And this is why we believe that we need a radically different approach. We need to accept that Ethereum is simply where the DeFi ecosystem lives today, and that's where the network effects are. And what we need to do, in our opinion, is to combine the best of these two worlds. We need to build a layer 2 that is powered by Ethereum innovation, so EVM, but also, of course, the network effects, and use that to bootstrap. And then grow by enabling Bitcoin security and being able to cater to a much bigger community, much more diverse community globally, and of course unlocking Bitcoin liquidity. But it needs to be step by step. And if you think about it, our job as a layer 2 is to get Bitcoin to the same level as Ethereum. ETH is up here in terms of usability, features, tooling, infrastructure, liquidity. Bitcoin's down there, right? You can't really do much on chain. Sure, ordinals, runes, BRC20s, Great, but runes didn't pick up because the UX is just terrible. And what an L2 should do is level the playing field between Bitcoin and ETH, and then the Bitcoin side of it will take its own path, essentially, in its own flow, and allow you to grow and outgrow ETH L2s. And the way this design works is as follows. For Bob, we will inherit Bitcoin security. There's different ways of doing that, whether it's a full rollup through BitVM, or you run a Babylon AVS, for example, or do a merge mine chain and have a trust minimized bridge. Ultimately, security from Bitcoin. Let's assume in the final stage we get to perfect rollups on Bitcoin. Okay, you have Bitcoin security, fraud proofs. So if you deposit Bitcoin into Bob, you can always get it out as long as Bitcoin is secure. Great. We solved a very big problem. But we don't stop there. We actually want to enable ETH users to also deposit their assets and trade against Bitcoin and other things that might come from BTC. And the way to do this securely is to create a native bridge to Ethereum. And native means that you don't introduce another trusted third party. So you, in this case, trust that ETH works, of course, and you only you trust that Bitcoin works. And for those of you who are familiar with ETH rollups, and I'm sure most of you are, normally a bridge between ETH and Arbitrum will check for fraud proofs on Ethereum. That's why we have the 7-day withdrawal period. The bridge will look at challenge like fraud proofs. If there's no fraud proofs, we're good, right? The state has been finalized, you can withdraw your assets. Now, instead of looking for ETH fraud proofs, what we can do is just look at Bitcoin fraud proofs, because Ethereum can verify Bitcoin transactions and block headers very easily. That technology has been around since 2016. It's running on Bob mainnet. We can read the Bitcoin state from Ethereum. So this means now that the ETH L1 bridge contract can just verify whether Bob has finalized on Bitcoin. And for the ETH user, this means you can deposit your ETH and your C20s into Bob and withdraw it back to Ethereum as long as Bitcoin is secure. And if we can all agree on one thing is Bitcoin is secure. If Bitcoin breaks, our entire industry falls apart. We wake up every day, we go to work under the assumption that Bitcoin is safe. And this means that we actually now have a model to bridge liquidity from Bitcoin and Ethereum into a platform and ensure that users can always get their money out. But we can take this a step further, right? Of course, Bitcoin and ETH are 95% of the market. But the cool thing is this design scales to any L1 that has smart contracts. Solana, Ton, Tron, Avalanche, Polkadot, you name it. Anything that can run a smart contract to verify what's going on Bitcoin, which is all of them, can then create a bridge where users can deposit their underlying native assets, like Ton, Sui, Sol, into Bob, trade it among all these other assets, Bitcoin, USD, stablecoins, ETH, Ton, whatever, and then withdraw it back to the original chain. So let's say you're depositing ETH, you buy Sol, you can withdraw to Sol, Solana. And you'll always be able to do that as long as Bitcoin is secure. And this is how we create the real flippening. Instead of wrapping Bitcoin to a dozen different chains, fragmenting liquidity, and putting users at risk of their certain security models, we turn it around. ETH users, Solana users, Ton, Tron users, they would just deposit their assets into a hybrid L2 like Bob, trade it there against anything they want, and be able to always withdraw it back as long as Bitcoin is secure. And if you compare this with other models in the space for trading, it looks very familiar to a centralized exchange, because centralized exchanges do the same thing. They allow you to deposit from different chains, trade, and then withdraw, but you trust a centralized exchange. Here, you only trust that Bitcoin works. And this is why we believe that with this hybrid design, we not only can compete with ETH L2s and offer a better product, we can actually build a platform that allows trust minimized trading and a DeFi ecosystem on top of Bitcoin and really flip the way we see Bitcoin versus Ethereum today. But it doesn't stop, oh yeah, and one of the milestones here, obviously, and one of the big building blocks is BitVM. So a month ago, a bit more than that, we released a BitVM 2 paper and BitVM Bridge paper. Of course, Robin is the key person that we all should thank for a lot of this innovation. Many of you actually don't know, but Bitcoin staking, Robin actually invented part of that back in 21. So same person, staking and BitVM. And together with Robin, we designed BitVM 2, which is much more secure, much more efficient, gets very, very close to ETH rollups, and allows us to build a trust minimized bridge where your assets cannot be stolen as long as there's one node in the network that's paying attention. So even, let's say we have 50 operators of the bridge. In a multi-sig bridge, if there's 25 plus 1, so majority are dishonest, they'll steal all the money. In a BitVM setup, if we again, let's say, have 50 operators for redundancy, even if all of them, all 50 are colluding, they cannot steal your money. The worst case that can happen is it can freeze it, because we'll challenge them one after the other, kick them out, and then at some point, okay, the assets are stuck. But there's no economic incentive to actually steal. And then just to wrap up with an announcement from our side, the hybrid vision does not end just on the bridging side. It's also about combining the best of Bitcoin with the innovation we see on Ethereum, and obviously staking, as we are here today, is one of these things. And at Bob, we really take products very seriously. We talk about tech, but tech is not everything. We need to make sure that we build the products that enable users to use Bitcoin already today, and that's how we build Bob Stake, which is a one-click staking portal and SDK that essentially aggregates all or almost all the Bitcoin LSTs behind one single SDK and interface. So for a user, this means instead of wrapping or bridging first, because all of these LSTs work differently. For you, it's one Bitcoin transaction, any LST, and then of course you can chain these strategies. You can say LST in lending, LST in a swap, and you can basically do your strategies, use Bitcoin with just one Bitcoin transaction. Now, how this works, under the hood, it uses cross-chain intents and Bitcoin verification, so some buzzwords. And the cool thing is for LSTs, what you get is that we can then plug this into wallets, staking aggregators, institutional custodians, to make it super easy for them to onboard all of these LSTs at once. So instead of, for example, you as an LST provider having to talk to all these providers individually, you're just part of this one integration. And we're happy to announce that we already have a quite big ecosystem from day one. So we have obviously quite a few of the existing LSTs already integrated with this. Solve, Bedrock, Pel on the restaking side, Chakra on the infra, and we have Pump BTC, Acre, YieldFi also launching soon. And we have an entire DeFi ecosystem that's been working to plug in these LSTs to offer users to do more with them, earn additional returns on the Bitcoin, play around with the DeFi ecosystem and start growing a DeFi ecosystem around Bitcoin LSTs. And this is powered by the top infrastructure partners in the space. So Kobo and FBTC are some of the on-ramps of how to get the liquidity in, alongside WBTC and TBTC and Dynamic. They're also here. They really help with simplifying the user experience for end users. And then one of the front ends where users will be able to stake the Bitcoin is staking rewards. They're the biggest staking aggregator for POS assets with over 3 million users. And now users there can just one-click deploy into LSTs. And there'll be more front ends and more integrations that we'll be announcing soon. And with this, thank you so much. Pick up Bob and join our ecosystem.